This is the touching moment the Duchess of Cambridge shares a kiss on the cheek with her grief-stricken father-in-law as they leave Prince Philip's funeral. The Duchess consoled Prince Charles as the pair walked out of St George's Chapel following yesterday's emotional service in memory of the Duke of Edinburgh. Photographs show Kate, 39, comforting the Prince of Wales, 72, over the loss of his father by putting her hand on his shoulder. She then kisses him on the cheek as they set off from the entrance of the chapel. Prince Charles had earlier been visibly emotional as he walked in the procession. Kate was later seen walking alongside Prince William and his brother Prince Harry, before leaving with her husband and returning to Kensington Palace. It is believed Prince Charles, who usually resides at Highgrove House in Gloucestershire, had been staying in London since visiting his father in hospital last month, and arrived separately from his wife, the Duchess of Cornwall. In a heartbreaking moment, the Queen was seen sitting alone in the chapel, before returning to nearby Windsor Castle in a state Bentley with COVID rules banning her from mixing with the rest of her family. The photograph of Kate and Charles was taken as the reduced group of 30 royals exited the chapel following yesterday's emotional goodbye to Prince Philip at Windsor. Moments after consoling Charles, Kate was then seen playing peacekeeper between husband William and his brother Harry. Harry was initially seen speaking to his sister-in-law as they left the chapel and began walking. But she then appeared to hang back, so he could talk to William for a few moments without her. The brothers' discussion came following an impromptu decision by some of the royal family to walk back to the castle, despite state cars having been put on for them, and it gave the cameras a chance to see them talk. The princes talked while walking out of St George's Chapel following the service yesterday, having earlier taken part in the procession either side of their cousin Peter Phillips behind the Duke of Edinburgh's coffin. It comes as Prince Harry last night returned to Frogmore Cottage after attending the funeral, ahead of a walk with his father later yesterday, reports claim. The Duke of Sussex made the 10-hour flight to Britain for the funeral this week, while his wife Meghan, who is around 7 months pregnant with their second child, remained in La. While plans for a wake have been scrapped, Prince Charles, who was clearly emotional before and during the service, intends to spend some time with his younger son, perhaps taking him for a walk today, sources claim. And arrivals from the US must quarantine for 10 days upon landing, but can leave after 5 days if they provide a negative test under the government's test-to-release scheme. Harry was allowed to attend the funeral at St George's Chapel in Windsor yesterday in line with government rules that make exceptions for such occasions. He arrived in England last Saturday, which means should he have tested negative, the Duke no longer needs to isolate in Windsor. He is understood to be based in Frogmore Cottage, where he lived with Meghan during their time as senior royals for the rest of his stay. It is there that he is set to meet Prince Charles, just weeks after the Sussexes plunged the monarchy into crisis, when they accused the royals of racism and the institution of failing to support Meghan when she was suicidal in their Oprah Winfrey interview. Following the bombshell tell-all, which included Harry's claim that he needed to educate his relatives, Prince Charles was said to be deeply hurt, but resolved to mend the broken relationship with his son. There has been talk that Charles will walk around Windsor with Harry to look at some of the tributes and spend some time together, the source said. However, Harry is understood to be anxious to return to America to be with Meghan, who is thought to be 7 months pregnant with their second child. He could fly back to Los Angeles as early as tomorrow.But, The Telegraph reported. The Duke of Sussex is thought to have stayed at Frogmore Cottage. The couple moved out of the Windsor home after standing down from their positions in the royal family in January last year, and moved first to Canada and then La. And even though the couple's departure sparked fears that Harry and his brother Prince William were not getting along, the pair were seen chatting during Prince Philip's funeral procession yesterday. The estranged brothers looked deep in conversation as they appeared together in public for the first time in more than a year. The princes talked while walking out of St. George's Chapel following the service this afternoon, having earlier taken part in the procession either side of their cousin Peter Phillips behind the Duke of Edinburgh's coffin. Harry was initially seen speaking to his sister-in-law Kate Middleton as they left the chapel and began walking, but then she appeared to hang back so he could talk to William for a few moments without her. The brothers' discussion came following an impromptu decision by some of the royal family to walk back to the castle, despite state cars having been put on for them, and it gave the cameras a chance to see them talk. Harry's friend Tom Bradby, who was presenting ITV's coverage of the funeral yesterday, said, "Funerals are a time of reconciliation, and that a sight, let's be honest, that many wanted to see." Not least the family itself. About an hour earlier, the Duke of Cambridge entered the chapel one place ahead of his younger brother, and the brothers were seated opposite one another during the service, with William next to his wife Kate. William and Harry had looked somber as they walked in silence behind the specially adapted Land Rover carrying their grandfather's coffin as it made its way to the chapel, and looked straight ahead as they both wore black suits. It had been quietly hoped that the loss of their beloved grandfather, who both men loved deeply, might start the process of rapprochement, but their brothers are not thought to have seen each other before the funeral. William, 38, and Harry, 36, were among 9 members of the royal family who walked behind their grandfather's unique coffin this afternoon, leaving the sovereign's entrance at Windsor Castle at precisely 2. 11:45 p.m. Yesterday marks the first time Harry and William have been seen together since March 2020, when they attended a Commonwealth service at Westminster Abbey with other royals, and could barely look each other in the eye. Speaking about their brothers' conversation yesterday, body language expert Jude James told Mail Online, "The moment of connection between William and Harry came right at the end of the service as they left the chapel. In a well-coordinated, but also relatively natural-looking moment, Harry walked up behind William and Kate to then joined them, walking between them and chatting to them both. After a few seconds of what looked like natural and not self-conscious conversation, Kate fell back, leaving the two brothers walking off talking alone. It looked like a genuine moment of unity, rather than something contrived for the cameras. Royal aides have been walking on eggshells as they try to navigate the rift between the brothers, sources said last night, as tensions remain following Harry and Meghan's acrimonious split from the royal family last year. It comes after Meghan Markle left a handwritten card on a wreath for the Duke of Edinburgh at St George's Chapel. The Duchess of Sussex, who is around 7 months pregnant with Prince Harry's second child, was advised not to make the 10-hour flight to Britain for the funeral by her physician. Instead, she watched the ceremony, which began at 7 a.m. Pacific time, on television from her and Harry's £11 million mansion in California, while the Duke of Sussex attended. A wreath from the couple was earlier left in St George's Chapel, Windsor, to mark their respects, sources told PAR news agency. Meghan and Harry personally chose the locally sourced flowers for their tribute, including acanthus mollis, bear's breeches, the national flower of Greece, to represent Philip's heritage, and Eryngium, sea holly, to represent the Royal Marines. The wreath also features campanula for gratitude and everlasting love, rosemary to signify remembrance, lavender for devotion, and roses in honor of June being Philip's birth month. It was designed and handmade by Willow Crossley, who arranged the flowers for Harry and Meghan's evening wedding celebrations in Frogmore Gardens, and for the Sussex's son Archie's christening. Alongside the wreath is a note from Meghan, who is known for her skill at calligraphy. The Queen yesterday wiped her eyes as she accompanied Prince Philip's coffin on its final journey from Windsor Castle to St George's Chapel. Miss Winfrey's close friend Gayle King yesterday launched CBS coverage of Prince Philip's funeral without making any mention of Meghan, nor the devastating interview she gave Oprah, that CBS promoted and aired just 1 month before Philip's death. King ran through the order of the day, and the order in which the royals will appear. She said, "Then we'll see Prince William and Prince Harry. William and Harry, there's no secret about this, have had a strained relationship, you could say, since Harry stepped away from his royal duties. She then, during a talkback, former Vanity Fair editor Tina Brown said there was family drama that the world was speculating over. Are we reading too much into the body language? They didn't stand shoulder to shoulder when their mother was buried.